Okay, welcome to workshop, Sandcastle Building Workshop number 2. So today we're going to go through some tricks and tips and techniques for doing some of the block out for a stairway and actually doing the stair, and block out for a road, and beginning the block out for the village, and actually showing techniques for building the road and the stairs. So this is an important part of this. You can get a great looking tower, but if you don't have other elements that are part of it that are kind of cool and interesting, the tower just kind of sits by itself. So this is going to be a good little bit of a demonstration of how we make these things unique and really cool. So this is the part where we use the largest tool for the job, and I like to use the technique of, the bigger the tool you can use, the faster the work will take place, and the better it will look in the end. So we're going to be using a large spreader trowel. We'll be using this medium spreader trowel, or a hand trowel, and we're going to be using a shovel. I'm going to use this flat blade shovel for architecture. I use a rounded blade for soft sculpture, waves and things like that, but this blade is the best, so I'm going to start having at it. What I'd like to do is actually create a stairway that wraps around this tower, and what I'll do is I'll have that stairway wind here and then come down to a road that meanders this way. So I'll start thinking about that road too, and I like my roads really steep. The steeper roads, they look more treacherous, and they add drama to the piece. And I like my roads windy. The windier they are and the steeper they are, kind of the cooler they are. So we'll have this road kind of switch back and head downhill here. Okay, so then with a hand trowel and a spreader trowel, we're going to start to find the shape of the stairway. I'm going to create this plane, and I notice I've got some soft sand here. That's no good, so we'll just trim it back. We don't want to have any soft sand in the final sculpture. And then I'm going to start carving a ramp. And this ramp essentially becomes the beginning of that stairway. And you always want to do your ramp first, so that it essentially establishes your slope and it makes it consistent. And I like my stairways kind of steep. So we're going to try to take this stairway down a little bit. And I also like to put doors. Everybody wants to have a stairway that leads somewhere. So you want to have a stairway lead to a door so that there's a reason to actually use the stairway, if that makes any sense. And it looks like I'm making some pretty good progress. I'm going to use the largest tool for the job to get rid of some of this excess sand. Now, if we were building a real large cool castle, I would probably have 3 towers up here of different elevations, and they'd be a perfect place to put one here that's about this tall, as opposed to this tall, and then another one over there at a different height, and create this very organic grouping of these towers. But for this particular tutorial, I'm not going to do that, but I do want to at least talk about the composition part of it and how important that is. So as I dig down into the pile, the tower starts to get taller, which is really cool. I like to do that with typical sand sculptures, is to dig another 6 inches to a foot around the base of them, and it essentially makes the castle look that much bigger and taller, which is always a good thing. In most cases, I should say. Okay, so I've started to create the kind of a landscape of rocks. I've pulled the tower down a little bit deeper into the field of rocks, and then the road will meander in a very organic landscape. And then later on I might turn a couple of these rocks into village buildings, and we'll show you how to do that when we get to that part of the workshop. But more importantly, I want it to be more organic for this part. So I'm just making these walls taller. And I've got a pretty good ramp here started. And it's going to come down to this landing. And I'll put a door at the bottom of this landing. And I'll put the steps into this, this stair. I've essentially found a nice mass that kind of holds the tower. I got myself a good tool to carve the steps in for the stair. And what I typically do is start at the very top. And I essentially cut a notch that represents the step. And I'm trying to keep all the steps radiating out of the very center of the stair. This whole tower is based upon the very center point of this tower, and the steps need to behave in a similar fashion for them to look right. So I've set up this camera up close so that I can maybe get a close-up shot. We'll see if it works. I think it's kind of fun to see the sand get broken away. Up close. Okay, so at the bottom of the stair, I like to put in a door. So I'm going to make a provision to get a nice looking door down here. I think it's an important compositional element. All right. I think I'll use a brush and a straw a little bit here. Blow our loose sand away. Give it a little brushing. And that just adds a extra level of cleanliness to the sculpture. Carving this from the top down, and if I had to come back up here and carve more windows in and drop sand down onto the stairs, it would be harder to clean the stairs and take additional time. So I wanted to make sure that I was content and happy with everything above the stuff that I've carved below. And that's an important general tip for anybody doing any form of sand sculpture. So I'm going to use this tool, and I'm going to continue the road and also create some interesting shapes out of the rock. You want the rock to have kind of a different texture than the sculpture, the smoother parts of the sculpture so that you get that variety, and you get that contrast, I should say. And I want to get pretty far down the hill with where the road's going to go before I put too much detail in the road. It's essentially one of the fundamental concepts of building a castle is work from the top down and do as much of the block out as you can. This looks like a great opportunity to have this piece of the road just cantilevering out and look very tenuous. And literally got to grab the shovel and really largest tool for the job kind of concept here, and take away a lot of this so that the road literally hangs on the cliff. Starting to come along pretty good. I've cleaned it up a little bit. I've created that cantilevered look and feel to it. And now it's kind of the time to decide what type of road you want. Do you want it to have an outside edge wall that helps people from falling over the edge? Or do you want it to just be an organic shape? Well, you can see here is the organic shape, and I think it's really cool. But I also want to do part of it where I actually put a wall in it so that you can see how we do that. The way I like to do the wall is literally scribe along the outside edge where I want that wall to be, and then working from the outside in, I essentially create an edge or a weakened plane and push the sand inward. So here this wall is starting to separate from the rockscape, which is kind of a cool thing. I like for the rockscape to have places where the wall had to be taller, and it looks more organic and more like mankind had to build a higher portion of wall in places, and that's a cool look. Here's some close-up shots of the road so you can get a feel for what it looks like. I know when the camera's further back it's kind of harder to see, so maybe this helps understand where we've gone. And here we are zooming into the stairway, the tower, of course. Looking pretty cool, looking pretty natural, looking like it got built right into the landscape. And that's the effect I was looking for. So stay tuned. Join us for our next instructional video where we'll incorporate some village buildings into this road and some other details that'll be a lot of fun for you to learn. So visit us on the next one. Thanks for joining us here with Archisand and this Sandcastle instructional series. If you liked it, smash the like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe so that you will be on the cutting edge for when we get the next one out. Thanks for joining. Till next time.